Hi everyone, good evening. I hear myself echo. God. If you're in chat and you can hear me echoing, please let me know. If you can hear the music, let me know. If you cannot hear it, let me know. No echo, thank you, Anz. Thank you, A. No music, can you hear? Let me see. Let me try something else. Having issues with my tracking today. It's all messed up. It's fine. All my streams are scuffed. Let's see. Do you hear the music now? Or is it me echoing? I think it's me. Still no music? Alright. It might work on my chatting screen. If not, it's fine. I don't care. Alright. Hello everyone, welcome. I have up top a little box. It's not updated. I'm gonna hide it because it's fine. Don't need it. But welcome to the stream. Today is going to be a nice chilled reading stream like always on our Thursdays. We're going to continue with the Murder of Roger Ackroyd. Hopefully my model does what she's supposed to do today. I need to fix that. If not, it's fine. As you can see below me, if you weren't here last stream, I have Asta and Yuno with me. They're so sweet. I have little pet assets now, so they can join me in all the games. I have other assets ready to go. Thank you. I'm checking my posture. I have other assets ready to go when they're needed. Alright, so today we're going to read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It'll be really nice. Thank you to the people who followed since the last stream. Warden VT, thank you. I appreciate it. So let's go to our library so we can continue. Here we go. Oh, I don't have the floofs with me. I guess I didn't bring him in here. That's sad. Let me know if you hear the music now. I guess the floofs are not joining us for reading. It's okay. Alright, so let's continue on with the Murder of Roger Ackroyd. So when we left off, still no music? It's fine. I don't care anymore. I can hear it. Alright, so okay, yes, last time we left off, and it was, we left off at chapter 15, and the chapter before, Caroline had talked to Poirot, and is getting some information about Ralph Patton, and our narrator, the doctor, was very suspicious. Not suspicious, just kind of appeasing his sister by listening. He thought there was nothing to it. He thought that Poirot was humoring her like he kind of does. But she finds out from him that Patton's boots were black and not brown, and Poirot thought they were brown, and the doctor has no reason why that even matters in this investigation, which, I mean, really, it kind of does, because if Ralph Patton has brown boots or Ralph Patton has black boots and the murderer had brown boots, then that is an important clue. So, chapter 15, Jeffrey Raymond. He is, I believe, if I remember correctly, the secretary. So, let's read about him. I was to have a further proof that day of the success of Poirot's tactics. The challenge of his had been a subtle touch born of his knowledge of human nature. A mixture of fear and guilt had wrung the truth from Mrs. Ackroyd. She was the first to react. That afternoon, when I returned from seeing my patients, Caroline told me that Jeffrey Raymond had just left. Did he want to see me? I asked as I hung up my coat in the hall. Caroline was hovering by my elbow. It was Monsieur Poirot he wanted to see, she said. He'd just come from the Larches. Monsieur Poirot was out. Mr. Raymond thought that he might be here, or that you might know where he was. haven't the least idea. Ooh, I just realized something. I'm not doing my closed captions, and I set it up. Here we go. There should be a button on your screen if you needed closed captions. They're supposed to be up. They should be there. Cancel. If they're not, let me know. I hope they are. Oh, thank you. Green ink writing. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Let me know if you can see the closed captions. It's supposed to be there. They are recording. And if not, I'll figure it out next time. There should be a pop-up on the side. Okay. Mr. Raymond thought that he might be here, or that you might know where he was. I haven't the least idea. I tried to make him wait, said Caroline, but he said he would call back at the Larches in half an hour, and went away down the village. A great pity, because Monsieur Poirot came in practically the minute after he left. Came in here? No, to his own house. How do you know? The side window, said Caroline briefly. It seemed to me that we had now exhausted the topic. Caroline thought otherwise. Aren't you going across? Across where? To the Larches, of course. My dear Caroline, I said, what for? Mr. Raymond wanted to see him very particularly, said Caroline. You might hear what it's all about. I raised my eyebrows. Curiosity is not my besetting sin, I remarked coldly. I can exist comfortably without knowing exactly what my neighbors are doing and thinking. Stuff and nonsense, James, said my sister. You want to know just as much as I do. You're not so honest, that's all. You always have to pretend. Really, Caroline, I said, and retired into my surgery. 10 minutes later, Caroline tapped at the door and entered. In her hand, she held what seemed to be a pot of jam. I wonder, James, she said, if you would mind taking this pot of medlar jelly across to Monsieur Poirot? I promised it to him. He has never tasted any homemade medlar jelly. Why can't Annie go? I asked coldly. She's doing some mending. I can't spare her. Caroline and I looked at each other. Very well, I said, rising. But if I take the beastly thing, I shall just leave it at the door. You understand that? My sister raised her eyebrows. Naturally, she said. Who suggested you should do anything else? The honors were with Caroline. If you do happen to see Monsieur Poirot, she said, as I opened the front door, you might tell him about the boots. It was the most subtle parting shot. I wanted dreadfully to understand the enigma of the boots. When the old lady with the Breton cap opened the door to me, I found myself asking if Monsieur Poirot was in quite automatically. Poirot sprang up to meet me, with every appearance of pleasure. Sit down, my good friend, he said. The big chair? The small one? The room is not too hot, no? I thought it was stifling, but refrained from saying so. The windows were closed, and a large fire burned in the grate. The English people, they have a mania for the fresh air, declared Poirot. The big air. It is all very well outside, where it belongs. Why admit it to the house? But let us not discuss such banalities. You have something for me, yes? 2 things, I said. First, this, from my sister. I handed over the pot of medlar jelly. How kind of Mademoiselle Caroline. She has remembered her promise. And the second thing? Information of a kind. I need to sneeze. Maybe? No? Okay, I guess not. And I told him of my interview with Mrs. Ackroyd. He listened with interest, but not much excitement. It clears the ground, he said thoughtfully, and it has a certain value as confirming the evidence of the housekeeper. She said, you remember, that she found the silver table lid open and closed it down in passing. What about her statement that she went into the drawing room to see if the flowers were fresh? Ah, we never took that very seriously, did we, my friend? It was patently an excuse trumped up in a hurry by a woman who felt it urgent to explain her presence, which, by the way, you would probably never have thought of questioning. I considered it possible that her agitation might arise from the fact that she had been tampering with the silver table, but I think now that we must look for another cause. Yes, I said. Whom did she go out to meet, and why? You think she went to meet someone? I do. Poirot nodded. So do I, he said thoughtfully. There was a pause. By the way, I said, I've got a message for you from my sister. Ralph Patton's boots were black, not brown. I was watching him closely as I gave the message, and I fancied that I saw a momentary flicker of discomposure. If so, it passed almost immediately. She is absolutely positive they are not brown? Absolutely. Ah, said Poirot regretfully, that is a pity. And he seemed quite crestfallen. He entered into no explanations, but at once started a new subject of conversation. The housekeeper, Miss Russell, who came to consult you on that Friday morning. Is it indiscreet to ask what passed at the interview, apart from the medical details, I mean? Not at all, I said. When the professional part of the conversation was over, we talked for a few minutes about poisons and the ease or difficulty of detecting them, about drug taking and drug takers. With special reference to cocaine? Asked Poirot. How did you know? I asked, somewhat surprised. For answer, the little man rose and crossed the room to where newspapers were filed. He brought me a copy of the Daily Budget, dated Friday, 16th September, and showed me an article detailing with the smuggling of cocaine. It was a somewhat lurid article, written with an eye of picturesque effect. That is what had put cocaine into her head, my friend, he said. I would have catechized him further, for I did not quite understand his meaning, but at that moment the door opened and Geoffrey Raymond was announced. He came in fresh and debonair as ever, and greeted us both. How are you, Doctor? Monsieur Poirot, this is the second time I've been here this morning. I was anxious to catch you. Perhaps I'd better be off, I suggested rather awkwardly. Not on my account, Doctor. No, it's just this, he went on, seating himself at a wave of invitation from Poirot. Oh, thank you, Clarissa. From Poirot, welcome to the stream. I've got a confession to make. In verite? Said Poirot with an air of polite interest. Oh, it's of no consequence, really, but as a matter of fact, my conscience has been pricking me ever since yesterday afternoon. You accused us all of keeping back something, Monsieur Poirot. I plead guilty. I've had something up my sleeve. And what is that, Mr. Raymond? As I say, it's nothing of consequence, just this. I was in debt badly, and that legacy came in the nick of time. £500 puts me on my feet again with a little to spare. He smiled at us both with that engaging frankness that made him such a likable youngster. You know how it is. Suspicious-looking policemen don't like to admit you are hard up for money. Think it will look bad to them. But I was a fool, really, because Blunt and I were in the billiard room for 9:45 onwards, so I've got a watertight alibi and nothing to fear. Still, when you thundered out that stuff about concealing things, I felt a nasty prick of conscience, and I thought I'd like to get it off my mind. He got up again and stood smiling at us. You are a very wise young man, said Poirot, nodding at him with approval. See you, when I know that anyone is hiding things from me, I suspect that the thing hidden may be something very bad indeed. You have done well. I'm glad I'm cleared from suspicion, laughed Raymond. I'll be off now. So that is that, I remarked, as the door closed behind the young secretary. Yes, agreed Poirot, a mere bagatelle. But if he had not been in the billiard room, who knows? After all, many crimes have been committed for the sake of less than £500. It all depends on what sum is sufficient to break a man. A question of relativity, is it not so? Have you reflected, my friend, that many people in that house stood to benefit by Mr. Ackroyd's death? Mrs. Ackroyd, Miss Flora, young Mr. Raymond, the housekeeper, Miss Russell. Only one, in fact, does not, Major Blunt. His tone in uttering that name was so peculiar that I looked up puzzled. I don't understand you, I said. 2 of the people I accused have given me the truth. You think Major Blunt has something to conceal also? As for that, remarked Poirot nonchalantly, There is a saying, is there not, that Englishmen conceal only one thing, their love? And Major Blunt, I should say, is not good at concealment. Oh. Sometimes, I said, I wonder if we haven't rather jumped to conclusions on one point. What is that? We've assumed that the blackmailer of Mrs. Ferrars is necessarily the murderer of Mr. Ackroyd. Mightn't we be mistaken? Poirot nodded energetically. Very good indeed. I wondered if that idea would come to you. Of course, it is possible, but we must remember one point. The letter disappeared. Still, that, as you say, may not necessarily mean that the murderer took it. When you first found the body, Parker may have abstracted the letter unnoticed by you. Parker? Yes, Parker. I always come back to Parker, not as the murderer. No, he did not commit the murder, but who is more suitable than he as the mysterious scoundrel who terrorized Mrs. Ferrars? He may have got his information about Mr. Ferrars' death from one of the king's paddock servants. At any rate, he is more likely to have come upon it than... Raven, stop. Thank you, but stop. Don't do that. You have arrived. Thank you for the gifted subs. Dinah and Greening, you got a sub. Yay. Pretzel, thank you so... Or Raven, I looked at Pretzel. Raven, thank you so much. Oh, I didn't say... Fuck. I didn't say it in stream yet, but thanks to Raven and an anonymous donor's generosity, two of the items on my throne have been completely funded, and a little cat scratch post partially funded. So thanks to Raven, Asta, and who are not in stream with me today, have no more. Yes, they have new toys, and I'm getting a new chair. I'm so excited. The last couple nights, my back has been hurting really badly in my sleep and even during the day. So I am really, really grateful to be getting a new chair. And I cannot tell you how excited I am. The chair that I'm currently in right now is, it's 12 years old. I got it when I was in my second year of teaching. That I got from an award for things. So I still, I'm still using that chair. To be fair, it was in storage for a while because I moved to another school and they had a decent chair for me. But I have been using it consistently for like 8 years now. So it's that chair. If anyone knows me IRL, it is that chair. It is a long-lived chair, and it's okay for short uses. But gaming, it just doesn't do it. I mean, it rocks, which is nice a little bit if I do that. But the new chair probably rocks too, or at least I can rock in it. And it also, if you hear that, that's my chair. Every time I move, it creaks. And I'm hoping the new one is silent. I'm always afraid to move and stream. Thank you, Raven. Mwah. Love you. If anyone does not follow Raven, you absolutely should. Raven is an absolute sweetheart and does amazing streams, and she debuted recently, and she's going to be amazing and keep doing great things. So go check out Raven. Okay, back to the story. Where was I? I don't even know. Oh, there we go. Parker might have taken the letter, I admitted. It wasn't till later that I had noticed it was gone. How much later? After Blunt and Raymond were in the room, or before? I can't remember, I said slowly. I think it was before. No, afterwards. Yes, I'm almost sure it was afterwards. That widens the field to 3, said Poirot thoughtfully. But Parker is the most likely. It is in my mind to try a little experiment with Parker. How say you, my friend? Will you accompany me to Fernley? I acquiesced, and we set out at once. Poirot asked to see Miss Ackroyd, and presently Flora came to us. Mademoiselle Flora, said Poirot, I have to confide in you a little secret. I am not yet satisfied. There goes my model. There we go. I am not yet satisfied of the innocence of Parker. I propose to make a little experiment with your assistance. I want to reconstruct some of his actions on that night, but we must think of something to tell him. Ah, I have it. I wish to satisfy myself as to whether voices in the little lobby could have been heard outside on the terrace. Now, ring for Parker if you will be so good. Okay, I'm going to run an ad, or 1 minute. Oh, it's supposed to be 30 seconds. I have to run an ad break right now because it's telling me to. Otherwise, anyone coming in is going to unfortunately see an ad. So I apologize for this. Anyone who is subscribed, you will not see this. So running an ad. I think most people in here don't have to worry about that. Okay, so we'll just talk for a second. How's everyone doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you today? I'm probably a 7 or 8. I had a lot of fun earlier. A sip of tea. Hopefully everyone's doing well. Okay, going back to the story. Solid 6? Good. I wish it was higher. Hopefully it'll be higher. But a 6 is decent. 4 would not be good. Let's see, I want to reconstruct some of his actions on that night, but we must think of something to tell him. I have it. I wish to satisfy myself as to whether voices in the lobby could have been heard outside on the terrace. Now, ring for Parker if you will be so good. I did so, and presently the butler appeared, suave as ever. You rang, sir? Yes, my good Parker. I have in mind a little experiment. I have placed Major Blount on the terrace outside the study window. I want to see if anyone there could have heard the voices of Miss Ackroyd and yourself in the lobby that night. I want to enact that little scene over again. Perhaps you would fetch the tray or whatever it was you were carrying? Parker vanished, and we repaired to the lobby outside the study door. Presently, we heard a chink in the outer hall, and Parker appeared in the doorway, carrying a tray with a siphon, a decanter of whiskey, and 2 glasses on it. One moment, cried Poirot, raising his hand and seemingly very excited. We must have everything in order, just as it occurred. It is a little method of mine. A foreign custom, sir, said Parker. Reconstruction of the crime, they call it, do they not? He was quite imperturbable as he stood there politely waiting on Poirot's orders. Ah, he knows something, the good Parker, cried Poirot. He has read of these things. Now, I beg you, let us have everything of the most exact. You came from the outer hall, so Mademoiselle was where? Here, said Flora, taking up her stand just outside the study door. Quite right, sir, said Parker. I had just closed the door, continued Flora. Yes, miss, agreed Parker. Your hand was still on the handle as it is now. Then allez, said Poirot. Play me the little comedy. Flora stood with her hand on the door handle, and Parker came stepping through the door from the hall, bearing the tray. He stopped just inside the door. Flora spoke. Oh, Mr. Parker, Mr. Ackroyd doesn't want to be disturbed again tonight. Is that right? She added in an undertone. To the best of my recollection, Miss Flora, said Parker. But I fancy you used the word evening instead of night. Then, raising his voice in a somewhat theatrical fashion, Very good, miss. Shall I lock up as usual? Yes, please. Parker retired through the door. Flora followed him and started to ascend the main staircase. Is that enough? She asked over her shoulder. Admirable, declared the little man, rubbing his hands. By the way, Parker, are you sure there were 2 glasses on the tray that evening? Who is the second one for? I always bring 2 glasses, sir, said Parker. Is there anything further? No, I thank you. Parker withdrew, dignified to the last. Poirot stood in the middle of the hall, frowning. Flora came down and joined us. Has your experiment been successful? She asked. I don't quite understand, you know. Poirot smiled admiringly at her. It is not necessary that you should, he said. But tell me, were there indeed 2 glasses on Parker's tray that night? Flora wrinkled her brows a minute. I really can't remember, she said. I think there were. Is that the object of your experiment? Poirot took her hand and patted it. Put it this way, he said. I am always interested to see if people will speak the truth. And did Parker speak the truth? I rather think he did, said Poirot thoughtfully. A few minutes later, he saw us retracing our steps to the village. What was the point of that question about the glasses? I asked curiously. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. One must say something, he remarked. That particular question did as well as any other. I stared at him. At any rate, my friend, he said seriously, I now know something I wanted to know. Let us leave it at that. I wonder what it is he wanted to know. Anyone have any ideas? I really don't remember. It's been so long since I've read this. Thoughts on the story so far? Hello to everyone who's in chat. There's more. I had viewers closed. There's more than I thought. Hope you're enjoying the story. If it's your first time here, welcome. I appreciate you all. I appreciate all of my lurkers. I know there's some writers in the chat too. Oh, and maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to get a little wardrobe change and an update, so I'll make an announcement when that happens over on Twitter. It'll be a fun time. All right, back to the story. We're on chapter 16 now. An evening at Mahjong. Mahjong. I've never played Mahjong except on the computer, but I think the way I've played it is not the correct way. That night we had a little Mahjong party. This kind of simple entertainment is very popular in King's Abbot. The guests arrive in galoshes and waterproofs after dinner. They partake of coffee and later of cake, sandwiches, and tea. On this particular night, our guests were Miss Gannett and Colonel Carter, who lives near the church. A good deal of gossip is handed round at these evenings, sometimes seriously interfering with the game in progress. We used to play bridge, chatty bridge of the worst description. We find Mahjong much more peaceful. The irritated demand as to why on earth your partner did not lead a certain card is certainly done away with, and though we still express criticisms frankly, there is not the same acrimonious spirit. Very cold evening, eh, Shepherd? Said Colonel Carter, standing with his back to the fire. Caroline had taken Miss Gannett to her own room, and was there assisting her to disentangle herself from her many wraps. Reminds me of the Afghan passes. Indeed, I said politely. Very mysterious business this about poor Ackroyd, continued the colonel, accepting a cup of coffee. A deuce of a lot behind it, that's what I say. Between you and me, Shepherd, I've heard the word blackmail mentioned. Colonel gave me the look which might be tabulated one man of the world to another. A woman in it, no doubt, he said. Depend upon it, a woman in it. Caroline and Miss Gannett joined us at this minute. Miss Gannett drank coffee whilst Caroline got out the Mahjong box and poured out the tiles upon the table. Washing the tiles, said the colonel facetiously. That's right, washing the tiles, as we used to say in the Shanghai Club. It is the private opinion of both Caroline and myself that Colonel Carter has never been in the Shanghai Club in his life. More, that he has never been farther than East India, where he juggled with tins of bully beef and plum and apple jam during the Great War. But the colonel is determinedly military, and in King's Abbot we permit people to indulge their little idiosyncrasies freely. Shall we begin? Said Caroline. We sat round the table. For some 5 minutes there was complete silence, owing to the fact that there is tremendous secret competition amongst us as to who can build their wall quickest. Go on, James, said Caroline at last. Your east wind. I discarded a tile. A round or two proceeded, broken by the monotonous remarks of 3 bamboos, 2 circles, pung, and frequently from Miss Gannett, unpung, owing to the lady's habit of too hastily claiming tiles to which she had no right. Ah, hello, Lavoie. Welcome. Thank you for the heart. Thank you for the first time chat. I hope you're enjoying the story. Ahem. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have any siblings. I have one. Um, um, I lost my place. Oh, there it is. Blah, 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 where am I? Which she had no right. I saw Flora Ackroyd this morning, said Miss Gannett. Pung, no one pung. I made a mistake. 4 circles, said Caroline. Where did you see her? She didn't see me, said Miss Gannett, with that tremendous significance only to be met with in small villages. Ah, said Caroline interestedly. Chow. I believe, said Miss Gannett, temporarily diverted, that it's the right thing nowadays to say chi, not chow. Nonsense, said Caroline. I have always said chow. In the Shanghai Club, said Colonel Carter, they say chow. Miss Gannett retired, crushed. What were you saying about Flora Ackroyd? Asked Caroline after a moment or two devoted to the game. Was she with anyone? Very much so, said Miss Gannett. Ah, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Very much so, said Miss Gannett. The eyes of the 2 ladies met and seemed to exchange information. Really, said Caroline interestedly. Is that it? Well, it doesn't surprise me in the least. We're waiting for you to discard, Miss Caroline, said the colonel. He sometimes affects the pose of the bluff male, intent on the game and indifferent to gossip, but nobody is deceived. If you asked me, said Miss Gannett, was that a bamboo you discarded, dear? Oh, no, I see now. It was a circle. As I was saying, if you ask me, Flora's been exceedingly lucky. Exceedingly lucky she's been. How's that, Miss Gannett? Asked the colonel. I'll pung that green dragon. How do you make out that Miss Flora's been lucky? Very charming girl and all that, I know. I mayn't know very much about crime, said Miss Gannett, with the air of one who knows everything there is to know. But I can tell you one thing. The first question that's always asked is who last saw the deceased alive, and the person who did is regarded... Oh my god! Hi, Cat! Hi, Gum! Hi, Miss Madam Mox! Oh my god, what? Wait, what? A double raid? Oh my god! Ah, thank you everyone for the raid. Oh, hi Gum, how are you? Double raid, that's I think my first. Oh my god. Thank you for the follow, Dave. Diggity Dave. Oh my gosh, thanks for all the first time chats. Ah, holy cow, this wasn't planned. What? Kat, congrats on your debut. Oh my gosh, how was it? I was able to catch some of it. Let me give you guys a shout out. Thank you to Kat. And also thank you to, let's see, who else raided me? I lost it. Aylin. Hi, Aylin Penrose. Thank you so much for the raid at the same time. Oh my gosh, I'm having trouble keeping out on this. Where are my mods? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Aylin, how was your stream? How was your stream? Oh my gosh. 14 and 11 at the same time? That's crazy. Played some random games today. Ah, random games. I like it. Thanks. Bye, Dave. Have a good night. Lots of murder going on in today's stream. There's some murder going on in today's stream. There is some great murder going on. So hopefully you enjoy the reading. Oh, I should introduce myself. Hi, everyone who doesn't know me. Thank you for coming in. My name is Sophia Ignosi. I am a teacher. I stream a variety of things. Minecraft on Mondays. I do reading streams on Thursdays that are nice and calm and chill. I also join other people's channels for some collabs with like Apex, where I am not calm and chill at all. And Horizon Zero Dawns on Sunday, and soon I'm going to be starting some other games. I've done one horror game, and I have a few more lined up ready to go. Not, I think, as scary as the Backrooms was, because I don't think I can handle that again. But yeah, so thank you for coming in. I greatly appreciate it. We are reading The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. It entered the public domain this year, which means we are free to read it. Ha ha ha. 3D debut. Oh, 3D debut. Yay! Little blame shakiness with tracking, but concerning had the tracking set up before. Yeah, your tracking on your hands was awesome. I was like, wow. I loved it. That was really cool. I liked your intro and everything. It was really good. That's so exciting. Yay! And I love your model. It's really great. Aylin, I'm going to have to check out your model too. Yay. Okay, so yes. It's on your to-read list. Awesome. You should definitely read it. It is my favorite Agatha Christie book. I loved Murder on the Orient Express, and then There Were None. But after reading this one, it surpassed them in favorites. Actually, now that I think about it, because I had just been talking about my old chair, because my chair is thankfully getting replaced, thanks to everyone who gifted on Throne. I read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. The last time I read it was the same year I got this chair, so 12 years ago. It's been a while. Okay, let's continue. We were on chapter 16, and they're playing Mahjong, which I've never played, so I have no idea what the terms they're using are. Okay. Oh my god, my 25 viewers. Whoa, that's scary. I mayn't know very much about crime, said Miss Gannett, with the air of one who knows everything there is to know. But I can tell you one thing. The first question that's always asked is who last saw the deceased alive. And the person who did is regarded with suspicion. Now, Flora Ackroyd last saw her uncle alive. It might have looked very nasty for her, very nasty indeed. It's my opinion, and I give it for what it's worth, that Ralph Patton is staying away on her account, to draw suspicion away from her. Come now, I protested mildly. You surely can't suggest that a young girl like Flora Ackroyd is capable of stabbing her uncle in cold blood. Well, I don't know, said Miss Gannett. I've just been reading a book from the library about the underworld of Paris, and it says that some of the worst women criminals are young girls with the faces of angels. That's in France, said Caroline instantly. Just so, said the colonel. Now, I'll tell you a very curious thing, a story that was going round the bazaars in India. The colonel's story was one of interminable length, and of curiously little interest. A thing that happened in India many years ago cannot compare for a moment with an event that took place in King's Abbot the day before yesterday. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad my voice is soothing. I'm glad. If anyone falls asleep, that's okay. I consider it flattery. Consider this ASMR, just without the binaural mic. It was Caroline who brought the colonel's story to a close by fortunately going mahjong. After the slight unpleasantness always caused by my corrections of Caroline's somewhat faulty arithmetic, we started a new hand. Everyone settle in with a blanket. East wind passes, said Caroline. I've got an idea of my own about Ralph Patton. 3 characters, but I'm keeping it to myself for the present. Are you, dear? Said Miss Gannett. Chow, I mean Pung. Yes, said Caroline firmly. Was it all right about the boots? Asked Miss Gannett. Their being black, I mean. Quite all right, said Caroline. What was the point, do you think? Asked Miss Gannett. Caroline pursed up her lips and shook her head with an air of knowing all about it. Pung, said Miss Gannett. No, unpung. I suppose that now the doctor's in it with Monsieur Poirot, he knows all the secrets? Far from it, I said. James is so modest, said Caroline. Ah, a concealed Kong. The colonel gave vent to a whistle. What? happening? Ray, thank you. I was gonna rate you later. What are you doing? Go back to streaming. Ah, Rekka, thank you for the follow. Thank you for everyone who's coming in. I appreciate it. 3 and 40 minutes. This is crazy. Can you? Because, yes. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna cough. Hold on, I need a drink. ID, is that a spewing drink? Or ID? Bleh. Icon? Yes, Nightbot, thank you for that. I'm gonna shout it out too anyway. Wait, did someone Oh, Leon, thank you, you're here. Thank you. I've got my mods. Critical Role. Suddenly messy. Yes, I love it. Bring on the mess. I love mess. I need to introduce myself again, apparently. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming in. Thank you for the raid, Miss Ray. I love you. My name is Sophia Ignosi. I, like Ray, am also a teacher. I am an English teacher, however. Oh my gosh, what do I say? I am kind of a variety streamer. On Mondays, I stream Minecraft. On Thursdays, I do nice, calm reading streams like today. On Sundays, I do Horizon Zero Dawn until it's finished, and I'll probably be doing some other games soon, like some mini horror ones. ID needed some kind of emoji like that since we're always saying dumb things around him. That's great. Sophia's not nobody anymore. Change that hoodie. I know. Livy, thank you. Yes. Okay. So my hoodie is from my favorite poem by. Does anyone know who it's from? Oh, thank you for the hydrate, Leon. I'll do that. Where's my water? There it is. Does anyone know where this came from? Ray Raid. Thank you, Karama. What? Thank you for the sub. Thank you, Livy. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. I'm just happy with people following for my calm voice. Yes, I have cute emotes. They need to be fixed. The background. Thank you. So my shirt says, "I'm nobody. Who are you?" It's from my favorite Emily Dickinson poem. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? There's a pair of us. Don't tell. They'll advertise, you know. There's more to it. $5 thank you. But yes, I am getting a clothing upgrade, not because in the next like week or two. ID, stop. 35 bits for 35 viewers. Thank you, Leon, for doing the shout out. I appreciate it. This went from calm, chill reading stream to 36 viewers to chaos. Oh my god, I'm sweating. I need more water. What was I saying? Oh yes, model upgrade in the next week or two. I can't wait to reveal my new outfit. It'll be really cool. I'll post on Twitter so you can follow me there. We're running out of stock. I would go take a nap. I'll try back. All right. Thank you, Ray. I love you too. Mwah. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it so much. If you haven't gone to see Ray, her streams are awesome. She's also very calm, except when we're playing Uno with Rekka and Cinnabon. Then it's not calm. Then it's just chaos again. Calm. Thank you, Aunt, again for the shout out to Miss Ray. Yes, so model upgrade. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll see when I'm going to debut that. It's not going to be like a debut, just hi, new clothes, thanks. And hopefully there will be another surprise to go with that, but we'll see. For the next somethings, buyer will throw in Founder's Badge for free. Oh my gosh, a Founder's Badge, nice. Yay. Thanks, everyone. Okay, back to reading. We are on chapter... Oh, for those who came in, I forgot, with Miss Ray's raid. Yes, you have founders. Oh, thank you. Go to sleep now, Ray. We are reading The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. It went in the public domain at the beginning of this year. I'm able to read it now. Anyone can read it on stream. If books are in the public domain, it means that they are available for reading. And I think, how many, is it 7? It's 96 years now? It used to be 76 years after publishing, and now it's 96 years. So there was like a 20-year gap. Yeah, there was a 20-year gap when no books were being put in the public domain, and I think it was 19... Oh, wait, I might be wrong. It might be 75 years. I'm getting confused. I think it was 1985. I forget. It's a long time, basically. I'm not doing math tonight. Forget it. So anything that's older than that. And actually, if you go on Project Gutenberg, it has a lot, if not most, or if not all, of the books that are available in the public domain that you can read for free. It's really exciting. So go check it out. I'm all about books and literacy, and if you can get books for free, awesome. Free legally. Pay the authors, please. Okay, let's continue with the Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's dead. The link is... I can take care of this. I need to get a permanent Discord thing. I've got it. Okay, I think... Oh no, let's fix that. There we go. I'll do that after. Oh no! Why did you get a warning? What? I'm sorry. I'll make it so that VIPs can post links. I thought they could. What? Oh, thank you for the gift, Clarissa. Thank you for the gifted sub. Who got it? Cat, you got it. ID, don't worry about it. Also, I don't think Dinah's here, but Dinah got a gifted sub too. Hey. Okay, really? Because we set it up so only clips can be posted. Oh, okay. We need to change it so VIPs can post links for me. That would help. That would be helpful. Okay, back to the story. What was they doing? They're playing mahjong, and they're being gossipy. Yes, because Caroline is quite the gossip, but so is Miss Gannett. Okay, and the Colonel is just a buffoon. No, that's okay. I don't mind at all. You're sus. Okay. Concealed Kong. Your own win too, he said. And you've got 2 pungs of dragons. We must be careful. That's okay, Leon. We must be careful. Miss Caroline's out for a big hand. We played for some minutes with no irrelevant conversation. This Monsieur Poirot now, said Colonel Carter. Is he really such a great detective? The greatest the world has ever known, said Caroline solemnly. He has to come here incognito to avoid publicity. Chow, said Miss Gannett. Quite wonderful for our little village, I'm sure. By the way, Clara, my maid, you know, is great friends with Elsie, the housemaid at Fernley. And what do you think Elsie told her? That there's been a lot of money stolen, and it's her opinion, Elsie's, I mean, that the parlor maid had something to do with it. She's leaving at the month, and she's crying a good deal at night. If you ask me, the girl is very likely in league with a gang. She's always been a queer girl. She's not friends with any of the girls around here. She goes off by herself on her days out. Very unnatural, I call it, and most suspicious. I asked her once to come to our friendly girls' evenings, but she refused, and then I asked her for a few questions about her home and her family, all that sort of thing, and I'm bound to say I considered her manner most impertinent, outwardly very respectful, but she shut me up in the most barefaced way. And also, friendly girls' evenings is in capitals, like it's a proper noun. Miss Gannett stopped for breath, and the Colonel, who was totally uninterested in the servant question, remarked that in the Shanghai Club, brisk play was the invariable rule. We had a round of brisk play. That Miss Russell, said Caroline. She came here pretending to consult James on Friday morning. It's my opinion she wanted to see where the poisons were kept. 5 characters. Chow, said Miss Gannett. What an extraordinary idea. I wonder if you can be right. Talking of poisons, said the colonel. What? Haven't I discarded? Oh, 8 bamboos. Mahjong, said Miss Gannett. Caroline was very much annoyed. 1 red dragon, she said regretfully, and I should have had a hand of 3 doubles. So exactly like you, James, said, I've had 2 red dragons all the time, I mentioned. So exactly like you, James, said Caroline reproachfully. You've no conception of the spirit of the game. I myself thought I had played rather cleverly. I should have had to pay Caroline an enormous amount if she had gone mahjong. Miss Gannett's mahjong was the poorest variety possible, as Caroline did not fail to point out to her. East wind passed, and we started a new hand in silence. What was I going to tell you just now was this, said Caroline. Yes, said Miss Gannett encouragingly. My idea about Ralph Patten, I mean. Yes, dear, said Miss Gannett, still more encouragingly. Chow. It's a sign of weakness to chow so early, said Caroline severely. You should go for a big hand. I know, said Miss Gannett. You were saying about Ralph Patten, you know. Yes. Well, I've a pretty shrewd idea where he is. We all stopped to stare at her. This is very interesting, Miss Caroline, said Colonel Carter. All your own idea, eh? Well, not exactly. I'll tell you about it. You know that big map of the county we have in the hall? We all said yes. As Monsieur Poirot was going out the other day, he stopped and looked at it, and he made some remark. I can't remember exactly what it was. Something about Cranchester being the only big town anywhere near us, which is true, of course. But after he had gone, it came to me suddenly. What came to you? His meaning. Of course Ralph is in Cranchester. It was at that moment that I knocked down the rack that held my pieces. My sister immediately reproved me for clumsiness, but half-heartedly. She was intent on her theory. Cranchester, Miss Caroline, said Colonel Carter. Surely not Cranchester. It's so near. That's exactly it, cried Caroline triumphantly. It seems quite clear by now that he didn't get away from here by train. He must simply have walked into Cranchester, and I believe he's there still. No one would dream of his being so near at hand. I pointed out several objections to the theory, and when once Caroline has got something firmly into her head, nothing dislodges it. And you think Monsieur Poirot has the same idea, said Miss Gannett thoughtfully. It's a curious coincidence, but I was out for a walk this afternoon on the Cranchester Road, and he passed me in a car coming from that direction. We all looked at each other. Why, dear me, said Miss Gannett suddenly. I mahjong all the time, and I never noticed it. Caroline's attention was distracted from her own inventive exercises. She pointed out to Miss Gannett that a hand consisting of mixed suits and too many chows was hardly worth going mahjong on. Miss Gannett listened imperturbably and collected counters. Yes, dear, I know what you mean, she said, but it rather depends on what kind of hand you have to start with, doesn't it? You'll never get the big hands if you don't go for them, urged Caroline. Well, we must play all our own way, mustn't we, said Miss Gannett. She looked down at her counters. After all, I'm up so far. Caroline, who was considerably down, said nothing. East wind passed, and we set to once more. Annie brought in the tea things. Caroline and Miss Gannett were both slightly ruffled, as is often the case during one of these festive evenings. If you would only play a leetle quicker, dear, said Caroline, as Miss Gannett hesitated over her discard. The Chinese put down the tiles so quickly it sounds like little birds pattering. For some minutes we played like the Chinese. You haven't contributed much to the sum of information, Shepherd, said Colonel Carter genially. You're a sly dog, hand in glove with the great detective, not a hint as to the way things are going. James is an extraordinary creature, said Caroline. He cannot bring himself to part with information. She looked at me with some disfavor. I assure you, I said, that I don't know anything. Poirot keeps his own counsel. Wise man, said the colonel with a chuckle. He doesn't give himself away. But they're wonderful fellows, these foreign detectives, up to all sorts of dodges, I believe. Pung, said Miss Gannett in a tone of quiet triumph. And mahjong. The situation became more strained. It was an annoyance to Miss Gannett's going mahjong for the third time running, which prompted Caroline to say to me as we built a fresh wall, "You are too tiresome, James. You sit there like a deadhead and say nothing at all." "But, my dear," I protested, "I have really nothing to say. That is, of the kind you mean." "Nonsense," said Caroline as she sorted her hand. "You must know something interesting." I did not answer for a moment. I was overwhelmed and intoxicated. I had read of there being such a thing as the perfect winning, going mahjong on one's original hand. I had never hoped to hold the hand myself. With suppressed triumph, I laid my hand face upwards on the table. "As they say in the Shanghai Club," I remarked, "Tin Ho, the perfect winning." The colonel's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. "Upon my soul," he said, "what an extraordinary thing! I never saw that happen before." It was then that I went on, goaded by Caroline's, jibes, and rendered reckless by my triumph. "As to anything interesting," I said, "what about a gold wedding ring with a date and 'from R' inside?" I pass over the scene that followed. I just lost my place. I was made to say exactly where the treasure was found. I was made to reveal the date. "March 13th, said Caroline. "My birthday." "Just 6 months ago. Ah!" Out of a babble of excited suggestions and suppositions, 3 theories were evolved. That of Colonel Carter, that Ralph was secretly married to Flora, the first or most simple solution. That of Miss Gannett, that Roger Ackroyd had been secretly married to Mrs. Ferrars. That of my sister, that Roger Ackroyd had married his housekeeper, Miss Russell. A 4th or super theory was propounded by Caroline later as we went up to bed. "Mark my words," she said suddenly, "I shouldn't be at all surprised if Geoffrey Raymond and Flora weren't married." "Surely it would be from G, not from R, then," I suggested. "You never know. Some girls call men by their surnames. And you heard what Miss Gannett said this evening about Flora's carryings on." Strictly speaking, I had not heard Miss Gannett say anything of the kind, but I respected Caroline's knowledge of innuendos. "How about Hector Blunt?" I hinted. "If anybody's—" "Nonsense," said Caroline. "I dare say he admires her, may even be in love with her. But depend upon it, a girl isn't going to fall in love with a man old enough to be her father when there's a good-looking secretary about. She may encourage Major Blunt just as a blind. Girls are very artful. But there's one thing I do tell you, James Shepherd. Flora Ackroyd does not care a penny piece for Ralph Patten, and never has. You can take it from me." I took it from her meekly. End of chapter 16. We have chapter 17 next. How is everyone doing? What do you think of the story so far? I'm curious. What do you think? Now I'm going into teacher mode. Good read. It is. Has anyone else read any other Agatha Christie before? I'm sure some of us have. Oh, and if you're interested in Agatha Christie and true crime stuff, which I am, there's a new, well, I guess it's new, at least the paperback is new, a book called Science of Murder. It's about Agatha Christie and how she was using forensics in her books, like fingerprints and blood spatter and such, before forensics was an actual science. So I think forensics came about in the 40s, I believe it was, and Christie's earliest books were written in the 20s. So the fact that she was using things that actual, detectives weren't really using, or if they were, there wasn't like a scientific name for it or category for it, is pretty amazing. And another little background information on the book, it's considered the best crime novel of all time, this one. So if you missed the beginning, make sure you check it out and read it yourself, or you can tune in and watch my VODs over on my YouTube account. Okay, 17 is about Parker, the butler from Mr. Ackroyd. It occurred to me the next morning that under the exhilaration produced by Tin Ho or the perfect winning, I might have been slightly indiscreet. True, Poirot had not asked me to keep the discovery of the ring to myself. On the other hand, he had said nothing about it whilst at Fernley, and as far as I knew, I was the only person aware that it had been found. I felt distinctly guilty. The fact was by now spreading through King's Abbot like wildfire. I was expecting wholesale reproaches from Poirot any minute. The joint funeral of Mrs. Ferrars and Roger Ackroyd was fixed for 11 o'clock. It was a melancholy and impressive ceremony. All the party from Fernley was there. After it was over, Poirot, who had also been present, took me by the arm and invited me to accompany him back to the Larches. He was looking very grave, and I feared that my indiscretion of the night before he got round to his ears. But it soon transpired that his thoughts were occupied by something of a totally different nature. "See you," he said, "we must act. With your help, I propose to examine a witness. We will question him. We will put such fear into him that the truth is bound to come out." "What witness are you talking about?" I asked, very much surprised. "Parker," said Poirot. "I asked him to be at my house this morning at 12 o'clock. He should await us there at this very minute." "What do you think?" I ventured, glancing sideways at his face. "I know this. I am not satisfied." "You think that it was he who blackmailed Mrs. Ferrars? Either that or—" "Well," I said, after waiting a minute or two, "my friend, I will say this to you. I hope it was he." The gravity of his manner, and something indefinable that tinged it, reduced me to silence. On arrival at the Larches, we were informed that Parker was already there awaiting our return. As we entered the room, the butler rose respectfully. "Good morning, Parker," said Poirot pleasantly. "One instant, I pray of you." He removed his overcoat and gloves. "Allow me, sir," said Parker, and sprang forward to assist him. He deposited the articles neatly on a chair by the door. Poirot watched him with approval. "Thank you, my good Parker," he said. "Take a seat. Will you not? What I have to say may take some time." Parker seated himself with an apologetic bend of the head. "Now, what do you think I asked you to come here for this morning, eh?" Parker coughed. "I understood, sir, that you wished to ask me a few questions about my late master, private-like." "Precisement," said Poirot, beaming. "Have you made many experiments in blackmail?" "Sir!" The butler sprang to his feet. "Do not excite yourself," said Poirot placidly. "Do not play the farce of the honest, injured man. You know all there is to know about the blackmail, is it not so?" "Sir, I've never been—" "Insulted," suggested Poirot, "in such a way before. Then why, my excellent Parker, were you so anxious to overhear the conversation in Mr. Ackroyd's study the other evening, after you had caught the word blackmail?" "I wasn't. Who was your last master?" rapped out Poirot suddenly. "My last master?" "Yes, the master you were with before you came to Mr. Ackroyd. A Major Ellerby, sir." Poirot took the words out of his mouth. "Just so, Major Ellerby. Major Ellerby was addicted to drugs, was he not? You travelled about with him. When he was in Bermuda there was some trouble. A man was killed. Major Ellerby was partly responsible. It was hushed up. But you knew about it. How much did Major Ellerby pay you to keep your mouth shut?" Parker was staring at him open-mouthed. The man had gone to pieces. His cheeks shook flabbily. "You see, I have made inquiries," said Poirot pleasantly. "It is as I say. You got a good sum then as blackmail, and Major Ellerby went on paying you until he died. Now I want to hear about your latest experiment." Parker still stared. "It is useless to deny. Hercule Poirot knows. It is so, what I have said about Major Ellerby, is it not?" As though against his will, Parker nodded reluctantly once. His face was ashen pale. "But I never hurt a hair on Mr. Ackroyd's head," he moaned. "Honest to God, sir, I didn't. I've been afraid of this coming all the time, and I tell you I didn't. I didn't kill him." His voice rose almost to a scream. "I am inclined to believe you, my friend," said Poirot. "You have not the nerve, the courage. But I must have the truth." "I'll tell you anything, sir, anything you want to know. It's true that I tried to listen that night. I heard a word or two made me curious, and Mr. Ackroyd's wanting not to be disturbed and shutting himself up with the doctor the way he did. It's God's own truth what I told the police. I heard the word blackmail, sir, and well—" He paused. "You thought there might be something in it for you?" suggested Poirot smoothly. Well, yes, I did, sir. I thought that if Mr. Ackroyd was being blackmailed, why shouldn't I have a share of the pickings? A very curious expression passed over Poirot's face. He leaned forward. "Had you any reason to suppose before that night that Mr. Ackroyd was being blackmailed?" "No, indeed, sir. It was a great surprise to me. Such a regular gentleman in all his habits." "How much did you overhear?" "Not very much, sir. There seemed what I might call a spite against me. Of course I had to attend to my duties in the pantry, and when I did creep along once or twice to the study, it was no use. The first time Dr. Shepherd came out and almost caught me in the act, and another time Mr. Raymond passed me in the big hall and went that way, so I knew it was no use. And when I went with the tray, Miss Flora headed me off." Poirot stared for a long time at the man, as if to test his sincerity. Parker returned his gaze earnestly. "I hope you believe me, sir. I've been afraid all along the police would rake up that old business with Major Ellerby and be suspicious of me in consequence." "Eh bien," said Poirot at last, "I am disposed to believe you. But there is one thing I must request of you. To show me your bank book. You have a bank book, I presume?" "Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, I have it with me now." With no sign of confusion, he produced it from his pocket. Poirot took the slim, green-covered book and perused the entries. "Ah, I perceived you have purchased £500 worth of National Savings Certificates this year." "Yes, sir. I have already over £1,000 saved. The result of my connection with my late master, Major Ellerby. And I have had quite a little flutter on some horses this year, very successful. If you remember, sir, a rank outsider won the Jubilee. I was fortunate enough to back it. £20. Poirot handed him back the book. "I will wish you good morning. I believe that you have told me the truth. If you have not, so much the worse for you, my friend." When Parker had departed, Poirot picked up his overcoat once more. "Going out again?" I asked. "Yes, we will pay a little visit to the good Monsieur Hammond." "You believe Parker's story?" "It is credible enough on the face of it. It seems clear that, unless he is a very good actor indeed, he genuinely believes it was Ackroyd himself who was the victim of blackmail. If so, he knows nothing at all about the Mrs. Ferrars business. Then in that case, who?" "Precisement. Who? But our visit to Monsieur Hammond will accomplish one purpose. It will either clear Parker completely, or else, well, I fall into the bad habit of leaving my sentences unfinished this morning," said Poirot apologetically. "You must bear with me." "By the way," I said rather sheepishly, "I've got a confession to make. I'm afraid I've inadvertently let out something about that ring." "What ring?" "The ring you found in the goldfish pond." "Ah, yes," said Poirot, smiling broadly. "I hope you're not annoyed. It was very careless of me." "But not at all, my good friend, not at all. I laid no commands upon you. You were at liberty to speak of it if you so wished. She was interested, your sister?" "She was indeed. It created a sensation. All sorts of theories are flying about." "Ah, yet it is so simple. The true explanation leapt to the eye, did it not?" "Did it?" I said dryly. Poirot laughed. "The wise man does not commit himself," he observed. "Is not that so? But here we are at Mr. Hammond's." The lawyer was in his office, and we were ushered in without any delay. He rose and greeted us in his dry, precise manner. Poirot came at once to the point. "Monsieur, I desire from you certain information. That is, if you will be so good as to give it to me. You acted, I understand, for the late Mrs. Ferrars of King's Paddock?" I noticed his swift gleam of surprise, which showed in the lawyer's eyes, before his professional reserve came down once more, like a mask over his face. "Certainly, all her affairs passed through our hands." "Very good. Now, before I ask you to tell me anything, I should like you to listen to the story Dr. Shepherd will relate to you. You have no objection, have you, my friend, to repeating the conversation you had with Mr. Ackroyd last Friday night?" "Not in the least," I said, and straightway began the recital of that strange evening. Hammond listened with close attention. "That is all," I said when I had finished. "Blackmail," said the lawyer thoughtfully. "You are surprised?" asked Poirot. The lawyer took off his pince-nez and polished them with his handkerchief. "No," he replied, "I can hardly say that I am surprised. I have suspected something of the kind for some time." "That brings us," said Poirot, "to the information for which I am asking. If anyone can give us an idea of the actual sums paid, you are the man, monsieur." "I see no object in withholding the information," said Hammond, after a moment or two. "During the past year, Mrs. Ferrars has sold out certain securities, and the money for them was paid into her account and not reinvested. As her income was a large one, and she lived very quietly after her husband's death, it seems certain that these sums of money were paid away for some special purpose. I once sounded her on the subject, and she said that she was obliged to support several of her husband's poor relations. I let the matter drop, of course. Until now, I have always imagined that the money was paid to some woman who had a claim on Ashley Ferrars. I have never dreamed that Mrs. Ferrars herself was involved." "And the amount?" asked Poirot. "In all, I should say the various sums totaled at least £20,000. £20,000!" I exclaimed. "In 1 year!" "Mrs. Ferrars was a very wealthy woman," said Poirot dryly, "and the penalty for murder is not a pleasant one." "Is there anything else that I can tell you?" inquired Mr. Hammond. "I thank you, no," said Poirot, rising. "All my excuses for having deranged you." "Not at all, not at all. The word derange," I remarked, when we were outside again, "is applicable to mental disorder only." "Ah!" cried Poirot, "never will my English be quite perfect. A curious language. I should then have said disarranged, n'est-ce pas? N'est-ce pas? I can't speak French. Disturbed is the word you had in mind." "I thank you, my friend. The word exact. You are zealous for it. Eh bien. What about our friend Parker now? With £20,000 in hand, would he have continued being a butler? Je ne pense pas. It is, of course, possible that he banked the money under another name, but I am disposed to believe he spoke the truth to us. If he is a scoundrel, he is a scoundrel on a mean scale. He has not the big ideas. That leaves us as possibility Raymond, or, well, Major Blunt." "Surely not Raymond," I objected, "since we know that he was desperately hard up for a matter of £500. "That is what he says, yes. And as to Hector Blunt—" "I will tell you something as to the good Major Blunt," interrupted Poirot. "It is my business to make inquiries. I make them. Eh bien, that legacy of which he speaks. I have discovered that the amount of it was close upon £20,000. What do you think of that?" I was so taken aback that I could hardly speak. "It's impossible," I said at last. "A well-known man like Hector Blunt." Shocking. Poirot shrugged his shoulders. "Who knows? At least he is a man with big ideas. I confess that I hardly see him as a blackmailer, but there is another possibility that you have not even considered." "What is that?" "The fire, my friend. Ackroyd himself may have destroyed that letter, blue envelope and all, after you left him." "I hardly think that likely," I said slowly, "and yet, of course, it may be so. He might have changed his mind." We had just arrived at my house, and on the spur of the moment At the spur of the moment, I invited Poirot to come in and take potluck. I thought Caroline would be pleased with me, but it is hard to satisfy one's womenfolk. It appears that we were eating chops for lunch, the kitchen staff being regaled on tripe and onions, and 2 chops set before 3 people are productive of embarrassment. But Caroline is seldom daunted for long. With magnificent mendacity, she explained to Poirot that although James laughed at her for doing so, she adhered strictly to a vegetarian diet. She descanted ecstatically on the delights of nut cutlets, which I am quite sure she has never tasted, and ate a Welsh rarebit with gusto and frequent cutting remarks as to the dangers of flesh foods. Afterwards, when we were sitting in front of the fire and smoking, Caroline attacked Poirot directly. "Not found Ralph Patten yet?" she asked. "Where should I find him, mademoiselle?" "I thought, perhaps, you'd found him in Cranchester," said Caroline with intense meaning in her tone. Poirot looked merely bewildered. "In Cranchester? But why in Cranchester?" I enlightened him with a touch of malice. One of our ample staff of private detectives happened to see you in a car on the Cranchester Road yesterday, I explained. Poirot's bewilderment vanished. He laughed heartily. Ah, that. A simple visit to the dentist. C'est tout. My tooth, it aches. I go there. My tooth, it is at once better. I think to return quickly. The dentist, he says no, better to have it out. I argue. He insists. He has his way. That particular tooth, it will never ache again. Caroline collapsed rather like a pricked balloon. We fell to discussing Ralph Patten. A weak nature, I insisted, but not a vicious one. Ah, said Poirot, but weakness, where does it end? Exactly, said Caroline. Take James here, weak as water, if I weren't about to look after him. My dear Caroline, I said irritably, can't you talk without dragging in personalities? You are weak, James, said Caroline, quite unmoved. I'm 8 years older than you are. Oh, I don't mind, Monsieur Poirot, knowing that. I should never have guessed it, mademoiselle, said Poirot, with a gallant little bow. 8 years older, and I have always considered it my duty to look after you. With a bad bringing up, heaven knows what mischief you might have got into by now. I might have married a beautiful adventuress, I murmured, gazing at the ceiling and blowing smoke rings. Adventuress, said Caroline with a snort. If we're talking of adventuresses... She left the sentence unfinished. Well, I said with some curiosity. Nothing. But I can think of someone not 100 miles away. Then she turned to Poirot suddenly. James sticks to it that you believe someone in the house committed the murder. All I can say is, you're wrong. I should not like to be wrong, said Poirot. It is not, how do you say, my métier. I've got the facts pretty clearly, continued Caroline, taking no notice of Poirot's remark, from James and others. As far as I can see, of the people in the house, only 2 could have had the chance of doing it. Ralph Patten and Flora Ackroyd. My dear Caroline, now, James, don't interrupt me. I know what I'm talking about. Parker met her outside the door, didn't he? He didn't hear her uncle saying good night to her. She could have killed him then and there. Caroline! I'm not saying she did, James. I'm saying she could have done. As a matter of fact, though, Flora is like all these young girls nowadays, with no veneration for their betters, and thinking they know best on every subject under the sun. I don't for a minute believe she'd kill even a chicken. But there it is. Mr. Raymond and Major Blunt have alibis. Mrs. Ackroyd's got an alibi. Even that Russell woman seems to have one, and a good job for her it is she has. Who is left? Only Ralph and Flora. And say what you will, I don't believe Ralph Patten is a murderer. A boy we've known all our lives. Poirot was silent for a minute, watching the curling smoke rise from his cigarette. When at last he spoke, it was a gentle, faraway voice that produced a curious impression. It was totally unlike his usual manner. Let us take a man, a very ordinary man, a man with no idea of murder in his heart. There is in him somewhere a strain of weakness deep down. It has so far never been called into play. Perhaps it never will be, and if so, he will go to his grave honored and respected by everyone. But let us suppose that something occurs. He is in difficulties, or perhaps not that even. He may stumble by accident on a secret involving life or death to someone, and his first impulse will be to speak out, to his duty as an honest citizen. And then the strain of weakness tells. Here is a chance of money, a great amount of money. He wants money. He desires it, and it is so easy. He has to do nothing for it, just keep silence. That is the beginning. The desire for money grows. He must have more, and more. He is intoxicated by the gold mine which he has opened at his feet. He becomes greedy, and in his greed he overreaches himself. One can press a man as far as one likes, but with a woman one must not press too far, for a woman has at heart a great desire to speak the truth. How many husbands who have deceived their wives go comfortably to their graves, carrying their secret with them? How many wives who have deceived their husbands wreck their lives by throwing the fact in those same husbands' teeth? They have been pressed too far. In a reckless moment, which they will afterwards regret, bien entendu, they fling safety to the winds and turn at bay, proclaiming the truth with great momentary satisfaction to themselves. So it was, I think, in this case. The strain was too great. And so there came your proverb, the death of the goose that laid the golden egg. But that is not the end. Exposure faced the man of whom we are speaking, and he is not the same man as he was, say, a year ago. His moral fiber is blunted. He is desperate. He is fighting a losing battle, and he is prepared to take any means that come to his hand, for exposure means ruin to him, and so the dagger strikes. He was silent for a moment. It was as though he had laid a spell upon the room. I cannot try to describe the impression his words produced. There was something in the merciless analysis and the ruthless power of vision which struck fear into both of us. Afterwards, he went on softly, the dagger removed, he will be himself again, normal, kindly. But if the need again arises, then once more he will strike. Caroline roused herself at last. You are speaking of Ralph Patten, she said. You may be right, you may not, but you have no business to condemn a man unheard. The telephone bell rang sharply. I went out into the hall and took off the receiver. What? I said. Yes, Dr. Shepard speaking. I listened for a minute or two, then replied briefly. Replacing the receiver, I went back into the drawing room. Poirot, I said, they have detained a man at Liverpool. His name is Charles Kent, and he is believed to be the stranger who visited Fernley that night. They want me to go to Liverpool at once and identify him. End of chapter 17. And because it's 10 o'clock for me, I'm going to end the stream. Next Thursday, we will continue with chapter 18. There are, let's see, how many pages left in the book? There are 84 pages left in the book. So we'll finish it, certainly not next stream, but in 2 weeks. We'll have the book done in 2 weeks. So, yay! We're getting towards the end of it. I'm so happy. What do you guys think? I'm so happy everyone's, still here and joining us. I'm really excited about that. But let me know what you think, and everyone who's lurking, I really, really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. But feel free to chat. I love this book. I really do. Does anyone have any idea who it might be? We've had a lot of characters. We have Ackroyd, who's dead. We have Ferrars and her husband, who are dead. Mrs. Ferrars killed her husband, and then she killed herself after admitting that she had done it to Roger Ackroyd, who she was in love with. We have Flora Ackroyd, the niece. We have Mrs. Ackroyd, the sister-in-law. Ralph Patten, the adopted son. We have Dr. Shepard, the narrator, who's the doctor of the village. We have his sister Caroline. We have Major Hector Blunt, who's kind of in the party. We have Geoffrey Raymond, who is the secretary. Parker, who is the butler. Mrs. Oh, I can't remember her name, who is the parlor maid and kind of the head of household. There's so many different characters it could be. And we had Ursula, I think her name was. She was the one that was being dismissed because she stole money. I don't know who it is yet. Well, I know, but I don't know how the clues line up. Are there any clues yet? It's hard to know. All right, let's see. I don't need to go back to my just chatting screen because I'm in a good one. Let's see who's online. We're going to raid someone. Have a good night. Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for gifting the sub to Kat. That was super, super nice. Let's see. Who is on? Raven, thank you for coming in. And thank you again for gifting subs and for donating to my throne. A literal throne. I'm getting a new throne for myself. And by that, I mean a comfy chair. Okay, let's see. Who is on? Kyo is on. Sky is on. Nums is on. Osric is on. Okay. We're going to raid Osric Teller. He's another storyteller. Aw, thank you, Raven. I'm making hearts with my hands, but you can't see it yet. Osric is another storyteller. He's in a server that I am a part of. The Alexandria Adjacent Anonymous. We're all we're all authors or librarians or English teachers in there. So we're going to give him a raid because I think that'll be super fun. So you get more story time from him. I think he might be. No, he's not reading. According to this, he's reading The Brothers Grimm. Ooh. Another one in my group is reading Murder at Styles, another Agatha Christie book, but they are not streaming right now. So let's head over to here. We're going to raid channel. We're going to raid Osric. Okay. Thank you everyone so much for coming in. I greatly appreciate it. You know, you have no idea. Miss Ray and Kat and Aylin, thank you for the raids so much. That was incredible. What an experience. That was crazy. All right, let's head over. I will see you guys again. I'm not sure when, but follow me on Twitter and you'll find out. Ready in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you there. Bye, everyone.